10:30 then, time to take a look through the morning's papers, and helping me to do that is the founder of Aflamnah, Vida Risk. Thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
So we'll talk about Aflamnah, which is a crowdfunding online site, in a moment. But first of all, just want to let people get to know you. You've been in Dubai for how long now?
10 years in April, actually.
Right, and what's your career-wise history?
I've been, I came over to work for a pay TV network, and then since then I've worked for several media organisations, and have been freelancing for a while. And then this idea of setting up Aflamnah came up because I was working with the Dubai Film Festival, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. So I got terribly excited about it, and it just happened.
Right.
So within 6 months of having the thought, it was there.
No, I can't believe it just happened. Lots of work must have gone into it before it actually got set up.
Yeah, a lot of pain and aggro. But when you sometimes you start things and there are obstacles in the way and you kind of give up. But with this project, it just kind of had a momentum of its own, and it was launched far sooner than we anticipated we could have done it. So it was meant to be.
Now, this kind of model of funding has existed in the United States, in Europe, for quite a while now. But Aflamnah's the first in this area.
That's right. And even in the US and the West, the concept of crowdfunding is really still only about 5 years old. And it probably only took off in the past 2 years or so. But we were the first to launch in the region about 18 months ago. We've taken on quite a big challenge of educating the market about the concept itself, getting creatives to feel comfortable about sharing their ideas, and then getting the general public to participate as well.
Well, we'll talk more in depth about the concept of Aflamnah after we take a look at some of the headlines from the papers. And Khaleej Times writes, as the curtain comes down on the 19th edition of the Dubai Shopping Festival today, residents and visitors from around the world will be carrying home moments to not forgetting from the 32-day retail extravaganza that offered the best in shopping, entertainment and winnings. Millions of dirhams are still up for grabs, with the Infinity Mega Raffle offering 4 draws on the last day of DSF. DSF 2014 encouraged visitors to go to over 150 events and activities that help the shopping experience, including discounts of up to 75% at 70 malls, over 6,000 shops throughout the city. Gulf News reports a car bomb killed at least 4 people on Saturday at a petrol station in eastern Lebanon's town of Hermel, a stronghold of the Shiite movement Hezbollah, the Interior Ministry said. At least 4 people were killed and more than 20 wounded, 2 or 3 of them in critical condition. Interior Minister Marwan Charbel told Hezbollah's Al-Manar television station, "We think it is a suicide attack," he added. It was the second blast in less than a month to hit the town, which is close to the border with war-ravaged Syria. On January the 16th, a car bomb outside the main government administration building in Hermel killed 3 people. Now, you have picked up on a story that is in the National today.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the Sundance documentary winner return to Homs, which sheds light on the Syrian conflict.
That's right. And it's an interesting story because actually the producer of this film was someone who was detained for a while, and there was a big international call for his release, and that eventually happened. And this director, his name is Talal Dirki, and he basically had 2 friends, and he followed both these guys for a while, documenting how they were pursuing a peaceful process and against what they believed was the wrong thing that the government was doing. And so after a while, one pursues the peace route through internet and tweeting and sharing news and photographs, etc., and the other one actually picks up arms. And so the 2 friends actually have very different views, and the film shows one with arms, etc., and the other one actually disappears and no one's heard from him before. But what's good is Sundance this year didn't select that many Arabic speaking films, so I was quite disappointed about that. but they did select this one, and it won the World Cinema Grand Jury Prize for a documentary, which is a great award to win, and I think this film will go far on the festival circuits. So it's an interesting story. It's, the director says it brings people together, and it shares an understanding of the Syrian conflict, which is terribly complicated. I mean, I don't understand really what's going on. I think everyone's a bit confused. And this apparently helps to clarify what is going on and the people's point of view, which can't be a bad thing. So he says, even those who don't know the slightest bit about the conflict in Syria saw everything clearly. There are people who came out at the cinema and said, we've brothers in Syria who we didn't understand properly until now. They need us to stand by them, even if it's just with words.
To find out more about this documentary, return to Homs. The story is on page 4 of the Arts and Life section of today's national newspaper. Right, 20 to 11 o'clock, and I'm speaking to Vida Riske, the founder of Aflamnah, which is a crowdfunding site. Now, we haven't actually really talked about how Aflamnah actually works. So, in essence, how does it all come together?
It's a really simple idea where someone who has a creative idea, and let's just say for the sake of argument it's a film, they will post information online. So they'll go onto the site, they'll share their idea by putting up information about the film, where they're at, how much money they need, what they're going to spend the money on, and put up a pitch video. So they'll say, I need the money for this, I'm really passionate, and really their objective is to make an emotional connection with their target audience, whoever that may be. So, for example, we had a film about 2 Emirati boys with autism called The Brain That Sings. It touches a lot of people. Most people know someone who's living with autism, whether it's part of the family or a child themselves, and it's a difficult subject to tackle. So it's easy to tap into a community in that scenario, for example. And the idea is that through social media, you let everybody know you're doing this, and you offer rewards. So on a film, it could be a credit in the end credits, a thank you. If it's a fun film, maybe a walk-on part. If it's a high-profile film, some people are looking for an associate director credit or an executive producer credit, and they'll pay for that. And so you launch your project on the site, and then you tell everybody about it, and the people in theory come to the site, choose a reward that they'd like to buy, and they buy it, and that way you raise the money that you need to raise. And the person offering the money gets a reward in return. So it's a simple concept. It's almost, imagine someone busking on the streets of London, and people are putting money into their hat because they appreciate what they're doing. So it's a little bit like that, but really you're inviting people to be part of an exciting project. Like, I think you've spoken to Champ of the Camp recently. So in a similar way that Champ of the Camp, a documentary about the labourers singing competition in Dubai, now in cinemas, they really need to raise some money to keep it in the cinemas and to make it travel further. So they're crowdfunding for that on Aflamnah right now. So it can cover a whole load of different creative ideas. We've had graphic novels on there. We've had a mobile outburst. We've got a website currently that connects people who'd like to volunteer with organisations that are looking for their skill set. So it's very diverse and really exciting for people with ideas and for people who enjoy culture and arts and making a difference.
And essentially then, it's to help people who've got an idea, a brainwave, a project that they want to get going, but for whatever reason can't go down the usual channels of going to a bank and getting a loan, maybe don't even want to get into a certain amount of debt that might cripple them before actually getting going. It's looking to spread the cost through a whole load of people, so that minimal amounts of money are being pledged by people. Mm-hmm. And of course that total then builds up to something hopefully quite significant.
Yeah, and that's generally the idea. It's important to say that no equity is exchanged on our platform. So it's not for businesses. It really is, as you said, for projects. And the idea is that there are also traditional forms of funding that people can apply for, but in general, 85% of those that apply get rejected. Whether it's for an art residency, or whether it's for post-production for a film, or whether it's an idea and you're going to the banks or whatever, and they can't quite see why they would fund you or help you or give you a loan. And some of these projects are probably not commercial. There may be no return, but they do make a difference. So it really is about finding the people that would be interested in what you're doing to help you. And you generally start with your friends and your family. And if they're not going to come out and pledge $10, then the people that don't know you probably aren't either. So it's important that you tap into your personal network first and then expand that to everybody else.
Now, as you mentioned, the idea is that people, when they pledge, will get some kind of reward. So can people pledge different amounts of money? Does the project manager set a structure themselves? Do you advise on how the structure should work out?
They decide what the structure should be. We always offer feedback because it's new and there's no silver bullet. There's no magic to it. You really have to be able to think through your audience and what you think would be attractive to them. So there's always debates about, if I went and bought a DVD in the store, it would cost X. Are people willing to pay X times 2 because they're helping me out and because maybe they're getting a little credit as well? And it really depends. It really, really depends. There are two types of people from the research that we've done. People that come thinking, I'm going to give $50 or $500, and there are people who come looking for a quirky reward. And so it's important that those rewards are actually priced fairly and are accessible. But they're also money can't buy rewards normally. So there are some premium rewards, like an associate producer credit, that people will pay several $1,000s for.
We've been mentioning a couple of films. You've also mentioned certain other projects that have used your site. So what do you give the project manager, if you will? What do you do to help?
We, in a sense, we educate them about how it's done. We warn them about the pitfalls, because there are some people who will just put a project up there and not do much about it. So we always say, imagine you're an American politician or a British politician campaigning to be elected. It's that much work. And so we help them put their strategy together. We discuss the reward structure. We're very hands-on, and if people are based in the UAE, we'll meet with them. If they're not, we'll Skype with them. And we're on hand to offer advice if things are, if they're worried about something, they will call up, but generally quite late at night, and ask for advice. So we do that. We also help spread the word. So whatever they're doing, we amplify that through our social networks. And we have a newsletter that's well read. I mean, I think we have a 30% open rate on our newsletter, which is kind of unheard of. So we keep that quite quirky. That goes out internationally. And we do quite a lot of research. I have a marketing background, so that comes into play quite often. We do a lot of research on Twitter and Facebook to see if there are communities that would be interested in the subject of whatever the project is, and we highlight those to people. So we do quite a lot to help them at least get the strategy right and understand what is required to make it happen. And then it really is up to them.
We're looking at the morning's papers, and we're looking at the US $100 billion raft of housing, schools, transport and other projects will transform Abu Dhabi into an integrated cosmopolitan global city, as we've been hearing on news bulletins this morning. All these mega projects will contribute in making a quantum leap in the infrastructure of Abu Dhabi. Fahad Al-Rakbani, Director General of Abu Dhabi Council for Economic Development, said in a new report these projects will emphasise the economic competitiveness of the emirate, empower the role of the private sector and sustain the local economy's growth in a manner that will lead to accomplishing the objectives of the Economic Vision 2030. And a businessman has been jailed for a year after he tried to bribe his way out of the UAE, says 7 Days. The French expat was trying to flee to Europe without his passport, which he had handed to the authorities in exchange for his release from custody in an ongoing cheque bouncing case. The Federal Court of First Instance in Abu Dhabi was told that the man's lawyer told him she knew an immigration official who could help him slip out the country. The French businessman handed over a bribe of 30,000 dirhams to the official, but the immigration officer reported him to the authorities. Instead of embarking on his passage to freedom, the defendant was arrested along with his lawyer as they approached the officer's desk at the airport. The lawyer and another woman who had earlier delivered the bribe on behalf of the Frenchman have also been jailed for a year. The court sentenced the Frenchman after finding him guilty of offering a bribe. And you've got a story from the National. It's actually research that's been done about our minds.
Yep, and the reason I find this interesting is that we underestimate how much is going on in the UAE in terms of research and groundbreaking stuff. And so this caught my imagination because my daughter's studying biomedical science, and she's constantly going on about serotonin and various chemical reactions in the brain. And so this sort of played to what's top of mind for me at the moment. And so Dr. Timothy Dorr is doing research into the role of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter chemical. And he's doing this at the New York University, Abu Dhabi. So as I understand it, because I'm not a scientist, serotonin helps your brain make connections or not make connections, but it also affects your mood, your digestive system, your how you're feeling generally.
Apparently serotonin is, a lack of serotonin is the cause of seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah.
Lack of quality daylight, which luckily for us in this country shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. So what he's been able to do is literally switch on and off the serotonin, and he's been doing this in experiments in fairly uncomplicated animals. And what they've realized is that if you switch on the serotonin in an embryo, it can actually flip all your organs round. So it's fairly major findings, and they're still at the beginning of the journey, but it's really interesting that this is happening on our doorstep and that we can understand the mind, because as the headline says, the human mind leaves even the most powerful computers behind with its range of abilities, yet how it really works is still a bit of a mystery. And it's just fascinating that you can play with one element in the brain and it can have all these different effects. So that's on page 13 at Frontiers, and it's a great story. It's a nice local story, and I'd love to meet Dr. Timothy Dorr.
Okay, and this is based in Abu Dhabi?
It is based in Abu Dhabi at the New York University of Abu Dhabi.
Chatting to Avida Risk, who set up Aflamnah, the crowdfunding site, and we've been talking about some of the projects that have used Aflamnah. Is there anything that you're particularly excited about at the moment?
I'm always excited about all the projects, but it's coming up to Oscar season, and we've actually got a project on there called A World Not Ours. That's a documentary. Documentaries seem to do really well, actually, and they have won over 30 awards in the film festivals across the world. They've been to over 100 film festivals, and they'd like to qualify for the Oscars 2015. So in order to do that, and I didn't even know this actually, you have to have a 1 week run in a New York cinema and a 1 week run in an LA cinema, and you also have to advertise in some of the daily newspapers in the US in order to qualify for the Oscars.
Oh, right.
So they're actually raising money so that they would be eligible and fulfill the rules and regulations of the Academy, so that they can apply for next year. It's a great project. It's a completed project, so you can you know exactly that it is a good final project. You can have a thank you credit in the end credits, and it's a great little thing that first launched. I think it had its world premiere at the Abu Dhabi Film Festival 2 years ago, not this year just gone, but the year before. So it's a nice local story. We like it. We think it could be a winner at the Oscars 2015. So that's one we're very excited about at the moment. And the other one is a website that connects people who want to volunteer their time, services, or skills to organizations that are helping. The overarching theme is Palestinians. So they put you in touch with NGOs or organizations, and you can say, this is what I'm looking to do, and the NGO says this is what we're looking to find. And so they're raising the money to be able to put that. It's quite a laborious project with a lot of research and database, etc. So two young ladies that are very driven. They're doing this as a way to give something back to a community. And they're at 50% more or less of their target, which is to raise $30,000. So we love that project as well.
Fantastic. So if people are interested in, maybe they have a project that has been sat there in the back of their mind for some time and never had the will or the means to get it off the ground, or if people want to actually start maybe taking a look through Aflamnah's projects and want to help out, what's the best thing for them to do?
The best thing is just to go onto the website, which is aflamnah.com, and to browse around, read about what crowdfunding is, find out and understand a bit more. That'll probably raise more questions, and then people can we have live chat on the site, so you can talk to us directly, or you can email us, and we're happy to, given we're in the UAE, meet up with people, have a chat. We've met so many new people through this venture that it's actually one of the lovely fringe benefits of setting up your own business. So we're always happy to meet. We're always happy to share advice. And if someone wants to participate and support one of the projects on there, it's really relatively self-explanatory. You go in, click the project, choose the reward, and pay online.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in today, sharing the news about Aflamnah, and thank you for looking through the papers with me as well this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Vida Risk, the founder of Aflamnah